Accounting standards are a critical topic area in the Advanced Auditing exam. In fact, they're so important, they're more important than your brought forward auditing knowledge. It is the one thing you need from earlier studies to help you to succeed in the AAA exam. Absolutely business critical. Now, in this podcast edition, we're going to be talking about what you need to know, which accounting standards are really important. Going to be giving you a leg up to help you prepare for this critical area of knowledge that you need for the exam. Now, I'm joined by Pamela, who is playing the role of a student who is studying for the AAA exam and is going to be asking me questions, the sort of questions that you might be thinking. So, Pamela, what's my first question?
I guess, firstly, what are accounting standards? Like, I've seen all of these different acronyms, IAS, ISA, IFRS. What's the difference with them all?
Okay, good question.
Start big.
Yes, well, they're the rules. Is what I'd kind of go big picture. The rules by which we create financial statements. And we need to know the rules as an auditor because the job of the auditor is to check that the financial statements have been properly prepared. And if you don't know the rules for how the financial statements are supposed to be prepared, how can you check they've been followed? So that's what they are. But all of those acronyms, they're horrendous. So IFRS, International Financial Reporting Standard, IAS, ISA, the answer is actually, it doesn't matter. In this exam, you don't have to quote any names or numbers of any accounting standards or auditing standards, because you said about ISA, whatever. That's actually to do with auditing. But again, doesn't matter. There's no marks for any of the names or numbers, so therefore no point talking about them in the exam.
So why do I actually need to know them then? Like how will they come up? Like in what way would I have to use them?
Sure. Well, at least 10 marks in the AAA exam will rely on your knowledge of accounting standards, sometimes as many as 15 marks in this exam. It's a critical topic area. So the short answer is you need to know them because to pass this exam, you really need to understand accounting standards. Yeah, you won't be able to pass without it, basically. But how it's tested. Now, question one of the Advanced Auditing exam is always set at the planning phase. We're getting ready to go out and do an audit. We're preparing, and part of our preparation for the audit is we think about where are the high risk areas, where are there likely to be problems in the company's financial statements, and therefore as the auditor we'll plan to spend more time there, or we'll plan out more procedures that we're going to do there because we think that looks a bit dodgy, that area. So question one of the exam, they will give you quite a lot of information about what's been going on at the company and its draft financial statements, and some of those problems with what's been going on at the company and the draft financials will be incorrect financial reporting treatment. And your job in the exam will be to explain what the incorrect financial reporting treatment is, and therefore that we should be directing our attention there as the auditor.
Does that mean, sorry, I was just going to say, does that mean similar standards come up fairly frequently then?
It's a good question. So there are classics that come up a lot. So revenue, inventory, these two are tested loads. Provisions, really, really common that's tested. But I mean, there are dozens of financial reporting standards, accounting standards, and they can test you on any of them. So intangible assets is another one that comes up quite a lot. Pensions gets tested rarely, but it does come up. Anything that is in the SBR syllabus, Strategic Business Reporting, underlying financial reporting paper, anything that is in there can be tested in the Advanced Auditing exam. An examiner does test you on all sorts of random accounting standards. So yeah, it's good to know the mainstream ones like revenue, provisions and inventory, but you've got to be comfortable on anything.
And how comfortable do you need to be? Like how much detail do I need to know or go into in the exam?
Yeah, great question. So this is one of the questions always asked. Is this the SBR exam again? Do I need to know in that amount of detail? Right?
Exactly.
And the answer is no, it's not the SBR exam again. So something like goodwill, for example. Which is, if anyone has studied the SBR exam, they'll know all about what that is. It's the excess that a company has paid for over above the value of the assets it's acquired when you acquire a business. Now, when you do the SBR exam, there's all sorts of rules about how you do that goodwill calculation. And it's quite technical and complicated and easy to get wrong. Now, in the auditing exam, they're not going to test you on all that micro detail again. What they might do is say, this business that we've bought is underperforming. But we haven't recognised a goodwill impairment because we actually are confident that it's going to return to healthy profitability. And you're like, hold on, they haven't recognised an impairment, even though the business is struggling. Clearly something's gone wrong here. And it's that sort of level of detail that you need to know. If a business we've bought is struggling, then you should probably at least do an impairment review to see if we should write down the value of that asset that we acquired. So it's not all of the micro technical detail. It's more of a sort of stand back. Do you understand the principles that lie behind that accounting standard rather than all of that micro detail?
Okay. So what's the best way then to kind of approach that and prepare for that? Like, if obviously I don't want to sit there and learn every single thing because that's not going to be useful. So how do I prepare?
Well, the first thing is you must have done the SBR exam before you study AAA. Right? And I get a lot of students who don't, who do AAA for some reason before they do SBR, or they do them at the same time. Not good to do that either. Right? So ideally, in fact, you must have already done SBR. Ideally, you've passed it. You don't have to have, but at least have studied all of these financial reporting rules. So that's the first thing. Secondly, really good idea to just go back over your revision notes for SBR. And just remind yourself, oh yeah, I get this, I remember that. But as you're doing it, you're kind of thinking, what could go wrong? What could go wrong in the way that this accounting standard is applied? Particularly, what areas of judgment are there where management who are biased for some reason might be able to apply their judgment in a way that boosts profits? Or so that's the kind of thing that they often write into a AAA exam scenario. Something judgmental about the accounting standard, management are biased, and that's what's gone wrong. So you're kind of going back over your SBR notes, but with an auditor's eye rather than a financial reporting person's eye. And you're thinking, what could go wrong with a company? What could go wrong in the application of this accounting standard? And by thinking about that, you're kind of thinking about the way that it is tested. So that's the second thing. The third thing you can do to help get ready for accounting standards is listen to Tom Clendon's podcast. So he basically has a great SBR podcast, and it takes each accounting standard and talks about it at sort of 10-minute bite-sized chunks. Tom is very measured and great to listen to, and really knows his stuff. He's an outstanding SBR tutor, so he's really worth really worth listening to his podcast.
Excellent. And all of that is then going over like previous stuff. Is there anything new that audit brings in that, I know you were saying like you're looking at it from a different perspective, but is there anything that in audit is totally different to SBR that you wouldn't have learned already?
Not really. So it's the same underlying principles or whatever in the accounting standards, but it's just the way that it's tested is so different. So in my course, we have a whole section where we go through all of the accounting standards, each one by one, and going, this is how it gets tested from a AAA perspective. So yes, you know your stuff already about capitalizing research and development expenditure, for example. You know your stuff about that. But here's what you really need to know for the auditing exam. This is where it will focus in exam questions. This is what could go wrong. And this is how you would prepare for it. So it's not that there's anything new. It's just that the way you get tested is really different. So that drives the way that you prepare. The other thing that you can really do around preparation to help yourself is practicing past exam questions, particularly question 1 of the exam. So there's tons of them on the ACCA's practice platform, and you will see how accounting standards get tested. And the more you practice, the better.
And there's a couple of things that have come up, like financial instruments that look really horrible. Are they the kind of thing that are likely to get tested? And is it going to be a disaster if I don't know them inside out?
Sure. Now, the bad news is the financial instruments does get tested. It is awful. I mean, who understood it even when they did SBR, right? It's really technical accounting. It's really nasty, difficult stuff. And a lot of students never really get it, even when they're being tested on that directly. So when it comes to AAA, they're like, oh, God, I just hope that doesn't come up. Right? And it was actually tested recently. Well, students fell into one of two camps. Some people, when the financial instruments incorrect accounting came up in question 1, some students went, and cried and went, it's so unfair. How have I been tested on this? This is not right. And then went into one to try and explain what they did know about financial instruments and spent ages trying to do it and pulling their hair out. And to be honest, those people didn't tend to succeed. The student who went, oh, it's only a couple of marks, I'll have a go and then move on, that student is the one that succeeds. So if something hard like financial instruments comes up, financial instruments, and it could be that, or it could be pensions accounting, or it could be something else that you haven't revised or you were never comfortable with in the first place. On its own, that one standard won't be worth many marks in the AAA exam. Yes, overall, it's 10 to 15 marks over the whole exam, but that will be several accounting issues across several questions in the exam paper. It's not just one thing for 15 marks. So if something comes up that you haven't revised or is really technical, you have a little go and you move on. That's just great exam technique, no matter what the question is, but particularly on something like financial instruments.
So don't panic. Have a go, move on.
Great advice.
Okay.
You're doing my job for me again, Pamela.
Excellent. I guess then the last thing I'd want is is there anything else you think it's really important for me to know while I'm prepping and for the exam in general?
Yeah, I mean, the advice you just gave there, which is have a go and move on, is really, really valuable. The other thing is with these accounting standards, trying to be taking a sort of higher level view as you are doing your revision. The temptation for students is to spend too long getting into the weeds again and reliving the SBR exam and doing SBR revision at the expense of what really matters for AAA, which is practicing AAA exams. So don't overdo it. Yes, this is important, but you should see this as one area of your revision, your exam preparation, but it's not everything. So you need a high level overview of each standard, and that's about it, rather than getting too into the detail. So thanks everybody for listening. I'm going to draw it to a close there. I hope you found this session useful. Thanks, Pamela, for all of the questions. And there's going to be way more coming in this series. So if you want to follow this podcast, subscribe to this podcast, you'll get notified. Also follow me on YouTube and you'll see tons of my videos there. And if you want help passing the AAA exam, get in touch.